In this Demon Souls build guide, I'll be showing you my Soul Samurai build, which is a Dexterity build that focuses on high damage using an Uchigatana and Bow. If you've been looking for a good starter Dexterity build, then you'll want to check this one out. The Soul Samurai build uses a combination of Uchigatana and Bow to deal good slashing in melee combat and piercing damage from afar. The Bow is an excellent way to pick off tough enemies at a distance while keeping yourself safe, and the Uchigatana has some of the most flashy riposte and backstab animations in the Demon Souls remake. If you want to roleplay as a samurai, then this is the build for you. The starting class I chose for this build was Thief because it had armor that looks somewhat like samurai armor and is light enough to allow normal rolling from the very beginning of the game. It also comes with a bow, allowing you to get used to using more from the start. Be sure to select the Providential Ring in order to increase your item drop chance, because you'll be farming Bladestone with this build and you'll want to speed that up. The Soul Samurai will need high dexterity to get the most damage from the Uchigatana with the way we'll be upgrading it. It's not necessary early on, but you'll want to pump it up eventually. Some strength is important to use the Uchigatana with one hand, but you can two-hand it with only 12 strength if you wish. It's also possible to parry while one-handing it, and then swap to two hands for the riposte so that you meet the requirements and deal increased damage. Your choice of placing enough points into one hand or not is up to you, but I suggest trying it out two-handed first, since it does more damage two-handed and looks cooler. However, you will need 15 strength in order to use the composite bow anyway, so 3 more points is not that much to spend for the flexibility. You will also need endurance to increase the number of swings you can do before running out of stamina, since the Uchigatana uses a fair bit, especially when two-handing it. You want to take this to 40 eventually, but likely won't get there before NG+. And lastly, you'll want some vitality. You don't want to die in one hit, so you'll need to invest in this as time goes on in order to prevent that from happening. You'll likely keep placing a few points here throughout the game to stay ahead of the curve, rather than a large investment all at once. Your stat spread should look something like this eventually. You likely won't reach these numbers in one playthrough, but it should give you an idea of where to spend points. You'll also increase vitality higher in subsequent playthroughs in order to keep from being one-shot, even though there is diminishing returns from 31 onward. The first thing you want to do with this build is learn how and when to use your bow. It can be a bit clunky to control when you first start using it, and the new triggers of the PS5 actually lock between shots, preventing you from squeezing the trigger again too early. This means you'll need to learn the rhythm of your bow and when to start pulling again so that you don't break your controller. Additionally, there are many types of arrows in Demon Souls and they are not all created equal. If you want to increase your damage with bows, then besides upgrading your bow, the best way is to buy good arrows and use the ones that are appropriate. Upgrade your shield. Even if you begin the game with the heater shield, as you should if you selected the Thief class, it isn't that bad of a shield. It allows you to parry and has decent guard break with 100% physical resistance. Make sure to upgrade it with Hardstone to further increase its guard break, making blocking drain less stamina. Lastly, practice parrying. This is a build that takes very good advantage of parrying, and they frankly look amazing with the Uchigatana, especially when you flick the blade. Spend some time learning the parry timing of easy enemies in Boletaria so that you learn to use this mechanic well. In this section, we'll take a look at what equipment you'll need in order to play the Soul Samurai build effectively. Keep in mind that you will likely change this up some depending on which section of the game you're on, but this should serve to give you some idea of what setups you're looking for. First, let's take a look at early game. At the beginning of the game, you'll want to pick up and equip the Cling Ring as soon as you can for further increase to your health in soul form. You'll likely be in soul form a good amount of the time, so this can really help keep you alive. Be sure to stock up on arrows so that you can use your bow whenever you need it without worrying too much about your arrow count. You can purchase some of these from Blacksmith Baldwin near the beginning of the game for relatively cheap, and you can always farm some souls to buy some if you need. Grabbing and equipping the Thief Ring in the Boletarian Palace behind Ostrava can also be of huge help. It reduces the range that enemies detect you, which can make your life overall easier, especially if you're farming or using a bow from a distance. The first place you want to head after defeating Phalanx is Stonefang Tunnel. Here you will find quite a few hardstone shards that you will need to upgrade both your shield and your composite longbow once you have it, as well as be able to purchase some hardstone shards from the Filthy Merchant. Additionally, you'll find Spider Stone in this area, which you'll need to upgrade your composite longbow to a sticky longbow. You want to be sure to unlock Blacksmith Ed while you are there so that you can convert your Uchigatana to a sharp Uchigatana when you get it, as well as convert your composite longbow to a sticky composite longbow, since Blacksmith Baldwin cannot do this for you. Not far after the lift for Blacksmith Ed, you will find the Great Club, which you will need to help you farm Bladestone. Bladestone is what you'll need to upgrade your sharp Uchigatana, but the enemies that drop it are skeletons and they resist slashing damage and are weak to blunt damage. This weapon will allow you to farm them much faster, so it is highly recommended that you grab it. Note that you'll have to two-hand it with at least 14 strength, which you should have anyway. The last thing you'll do here is defeat the Armor Spider to acquire a pure Spider Stone and open the area afterwards, which you can use to farm more Spider Stone. You can farm it when you get there if you want, or you can come back and do it later if you'd rather. The first thing you want to pick up in the Shrine of Storms is the composite longbow, and it can be found laying in the tower next to the Lone Bowman up to the left of the first fog gate. You'll want to upgrade this to +3 using hardstone shards once you finish this area, and then begin the sticky upgrade path with Blacksmith Ed. Note that it must be +3 in order to see this upgrade path, and if you are higher or lower, you will not be able to do this. Next, head past the Vanguard Demon and pick up the Uchigatana laying on the ground behind it. It's really easy to find and you cannot miss it. You want to upgrade this using the sharp upgrade path, which requires Bladestone that will be dropped by skeletons in this area. Make sure that you do not upgrade it with any sharp stones, or you will not be able to see this upgrade path. Next, you want to pick up the Regenerator's Ring, which can be found near the boss area along a cliff path past the Crystal Lizard. This is a great ring for regenerating your health in certain situations, and is a good one to have in your rotation even though you won't use it all the time. After defeating Adjudicator, you can use his Archstone to farm the Black Skeleton just before his Fog Gate for Bladestone. This is the most effective way I've found so far, and because of the rapid load times in the Great Club, it takes less than 1 minute per kill, which is extremely efficient. You can get Bladestone shards, chunks, and pure Bladestone all from this one guy, allowing you a +5 sharp Uchigatana extremely early in the game with a little luck. Be sure to put on the Thief Ring while farming him so that you can backstab him more easily, and then just smash R2 until he's dead. Then drop back down to the Archstone and reload into the same area, rinse and repeat. Note that I was able to get a pure Bladestone from him in about 20 minutes using this technique, though I still had to farm a while longer to get the chunks I needed. I didn't have the Providential Ring on when doing this, but theoretically it should help with your drop rates, which is why I recommend taking it during character creation. Note that you'll have higher drop rates with darker world tendency, so it's probably worth dying a few times in body form in this region to speed up farming, but isn't absolutely necessary. Final tips. The Dark Silver Shield is not a bad upgrade over the Heater Shield for this build since it has comparable guard break but far more resistances. It's a lot heavier and harder to upgrade, but if you find you're using your shield for more than just parrying, then you might want to use this. It's dropped by Garl Vinland during his boss fight. You can farm Spider Stone from the miners in Stonefang Tunnel, just remember that they are weak to piercing damage, so use your bow or thrust attack of your Uchigatana to farm them more quickly. There are also a bunch of crystal lizards in this area that drop Spider Stone, and they respawn multiple times. Some bosses are weak to magic damage and some are weak to fire damage. Make sure to stock up on fire and holy arrows so that you can have the right arrow for the job. You can absolutely obliterate some bosses with these arrows, so it's worth taking the time to farm some souls for them. In that same vein, the sharp upgrade path for the Uchigatana allows you to buff it with sticky white slime or pine resin, further increasing your damage. This is one of the main reasons I selected it for this build over tearing, which cannot be buffed. Lastly, although the Uchigatana can set the bleeding status ailment, it isn't particularly effective as its damage tick is rather slow and not all enemies can bleed. For this reason, don't rely on it in PvE, though it can be very helpful in PvP should you set it on your opponent. Stay tuned for more Demon Souls build guides as we explore just what kind of builds you can make. And be sure to check out the Demon Souls wiki if you have specific questions about the game.